This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Todd, time to start. Toddly, time to start. I mean,
I don't think that you can overrule this.
Is there a reason you don't want to start?
Yeah, clearly. God told me to wait.
He did.
Sure, why not? He's talking to everybody else these days. This is Wretched Radio. A Texas judge interrupts the jury, telling them the defendant is not guilty. How did he know? Because God told him so. Not kidding. Talk about out of control. A state district judge in Comal County. I'm going to have to guess this is Texas, but I don't know for Comal County, said God told him to intervene in jury deliberations to sway jurors to return a not guilty verdict in the trial of a Buddha woman, not like as in Buddhism, B-U-D-A woman, accused of trafficking a teen girl for, well, you know what purposes. Yeah. The judge apologized to jurors for the interruption, but defended his actions by telling them, quote, "When God tells me I got to do something, I got to do it." Now, this is according to the Herald Zeitung. Well, maybe it's Germany? Well, wherever it is, the jury went against the judge's wishes, finding the woman guilty of continuous trafficking of a person and later sentenced her to 25 years in prison. This is continuationism gone to bloom. When God tells me something, I gotta do it. It's typically a little something that the pagans would call intuition, a premonition. They get a sense or a feeling. Even the pagans get this. So what's the difference between pagans and Christians? No, nothing in this regard. We get intuitions, we get senses, feelings. I could carry on a conversation inside of my head all the time, and I regularly do. And I could ascribe one of the voices to God. How do I know if it is or isn't? Because the Bible tells me so. And if you say, well, where does it tell me that the Bible is all that we have, that the Bible is closed? Well, I would ask you the question, how do you know that the Bible is all that we're supposed to have? Could the Bible have some more revelation after revelation? Could we add books to the Bible? You go, well, no. How do you know that? You say, well, I mean, look at the history of it. Look at kind of the way that it played out, and just look at the way the Bible is pointing at itself to indicate that it is the full, final, sufficient revelation of God. And I say, exactly. Either the word sufficient means sufficient or it doesn't. All Scripture is inspired by God, and it is profitable for all the things necessary for life and godliness. And if we believe that the Bible is sufficient, then we don't need God to say anything. And I know people would say, well, then we confirm it with the Bible. If we can confirm it with the Bible, then nobody needed to hear it because there it is right inside of the Word, and we need to be reading it and applying it. And this is a good example of bad things that can happen from God told me so. And I've read, I suspect if this were documented, you could fill a library full of hurt people who have heard from somebody that God supposedly spoke to. God told me that you should do this. God told me you shouldn't do that. It goes on regularly. And there can be very bad outcomes from this. I don't want to mention the fellow's name because I don't remember the details well enough, but I do remember there's a high-profile evangelical, very respected, who's open to God continuing to speak. And I remember that inside of his church, several people had the same voice rattling inside of their head that somebody's child was going to die. The child didn't die. You don't suppose that caused a bit of a panic for the family, do you? And it turns out it was basically an oops, but really what harm was done? Well, how's about the family being freaked out that they thought God told somebody their daughter was going to die? And I would say this, too. I had a chance at the G3 conference, which just took place this weekend. I spoke to Tom Ascol, A-S-C-O-L. We've borrowed his stuff before here on Wretched Radio. He apparently delivered, I didn't get to hear it, but I'd like to go listen to it. I'd like to hear what he had to say, because Phil Johnson tweeted it was an excellent sermon at the G3 conference. I had a chance to sit down with him. He is the fellow who leads founders.org. This is a website that I've just discovered somewhat recently because of their church search engine. tms.edu, you want to find a church, start there. Then go to founders.org. Don't find anything there, then give 9 Marks a try. And it's a great website. And Tom Ascol, A-S-C-O-L, you can Google him. He's the fellow who apparently runs that. And I got to sit down and chat with him. I really liked Tom. Sometimes you meet somebody and it's like, boy, I really like that guy. And other times, not so much. He was on the other end of the scale. And we were talking about this very issue, and I expressed my concern that the cautious guys that we have today, for instance, John Piper, Wayne Grudem, Matt Chandler, they're calling themselves cautious. When I talked with Justin Peters, he had a very pithy response to that. Why would you be cautious? If these gifts are really operative today, that you can have a prophetic utterance, why would you practice it with caution? You never hear anybody say, I've got the gift of hospitality, but I'm very cautious about it. I have the gift of mercy, but whoa, I want to make sure that I go really slow and cautiously with this and run it by the elders. You'd go, well, that's weird. Exercise your gift, man. And the same thing should be true with hearing from God, speaking for God, being able to do miracles, having dreams. You go. If they're operative, the more the merrier, if they were operative. And so these fellows who are trying to put the brakes on them, for instance, was reading that. Actually, I saw a video. This goes back to 2011. I didn't realize that back in 2011. Matt Chandler was already very much down this road. He said typically in their church, if somebody has a dream, then they go to the elders, and then the elders decide if it really was a dream from God, and then they roll it out to the congregation as need be. Now, you can debate that all you want to, but here's my concern. While they're trying to exercise some caution, which shouldn't be necessary. If it is a gift, then it is a gift. I doubt that the elders receive phone calls. Yeah, I've got some in-laws coming in, and I'd like to practice the gift of hospitality. What do you think? I don't think that goes on. So while they're nevertheless trying to be cautious about these things, I can't help but wonder if the people that follow them will be as cautious. If you look at the history of virtually any denomination, any church, or any institution, Christian institution like a university, do they typically bend more right? No, they don't. Do they typically toe the line where the founding fathers of the institution started it? Nah. Woo! It goes to the left, typically like a J-curve. And that's my concern. That these guys that you look and you go, okay, well, they're being cautious. They've got some practical guardrails on it, which I don't understand. But nevertheless, what's going to happen when those people from a different state go, okay, so they're open to the stuff. Do you think that they're going to practice it with such discipline and such care? Doubt it. Which is why this is not a prophetic utterance, but this is a genuine concern. And I shared this with Tom Ascol, that it is not going to be long until huge movements inside of the neo-reform movement are going to be indistinguishable from the NAR. There's no guardrail. There's no stopping it. They're not going to be able to go, whoa, you can't do that. And I suspect entire networks that begin with the number 29 or entire coalitions that are about the gospel, they're not going to be able to stop any of this. Why? Well, God told them. Or the mantra that is used, if the Bible doesn't say you can't do it, then you can do it. Do you know what that means? That means, okay, my dog Charlie is sitting on, there go his ears. My dog Charlie is sitting on the floor. That means I could hear from Charlie. Why not? The Bible doesn't say dogs can't speak. After all, Balaam's ass spoke, so why can't your dog? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Nevertheless, that is how far this can go. And I don't think that anybody, any of these more sound guys, are going to be able to stop it. because they've opened up the door and they've said, it's okay. We can do these things. And it is going to, it will just keep going and going and going. And the next thing you know, you've got glory, glitter, and angel feathers. When I was speaking with Justin at the G3 conference, he actually said that he met a woman in Florida who goes to some false prophet's church down there, that her job was to go into the ventilation system to put glory, glitter into the ventilation system. He talked to her. Her husband is still in that church. Maybe he took her gig, putting the glory, glitter in. That was her job. Is there any reason to think that the neo-reformed movement, which, by the way, December 21st, Christianity Today, Brett McCunkle said, the rise of the Reformed Charismatic Movement, is there any reason to believe that it will not get as wacky as the NAR? And I fear there is absolutely no reason whatsoever. There you have it. My cheery prediction for the neo-reform movement 2018.
I feel better.
This is Wretched Radio.
Don't forget, if you would like to hear the entire daily broadcast, simply visit wretched.org, go to iTunes, figure out your favorite Android listening platform, and you can listen to the entire program every single day, downloaded to your listening device for free. Well, thanks to our monthly supporters called the Gospel Partners. If you'd like to partner with us, we'd be very, very grateful. Simply visit wretched.org.